And the second one. Hello. Hello, and welcome to another monthly reading wrap-up. Okay, everybody, it is another month, which means it's another monthly reading wrap-up, as we do over on this channel. Hello, welcome if this is your first one. Nice to have you here. The way that these work is I just tell you about the books that I read this month. That is basically what we're doing today. I know that this is a little late. I usually try to get this up on the first day of the month, but this one was a little late. I'm excited to talk about the books I read this month. I'm not sure how many books that I read this month. I wasn't keeping track because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many books that you read in a month, and that's something that I've heavily been trying to tell myself, because I do have a reading goal, because there's a certain amount of books that I would like to read this year, but I'm not going to measure the success of my reading month on how many books I read, but the ratings of the book I read. But we're going to talk about all of the books that I read today, and then, you know, we will probably count them at the end just to see how many I did read, because I honestly have no clue. Okay, let me find my phone because I don't know where it's at. Oh, it's right here. February reads. Let's see if I remember any of the books that I read this month. I started off the month strong. I started this month off with a bang, and that book was The Final Offer by none other than Miss Lauren Asher. I think that the final rating that I decided upon for this book is a 4.75 stars. I love this series. This series is a 5-star series for me, and this book was almost a 5-star. When I initially did read this book, I think I did say it was a 5-star, but I brought it down to a 4.75 because I'm very picky with my 5-star reads. I absolutely loved Cal. He is my absolute favorite brother, and even the glimpses of the other previous characters that we read were just so good in this book. Like, I even somehow fell more in love with the guys from the other book and this book, to see like the outsider perspective and the character growth, not just within Cal, but within all of the other characters we've been reading about as well. Also, if we're discussing Cal, I feel like I was kind of almost blindsided by some of the things that he faces in this book, or maybe I was just completely unaware, but Cal basically has a lot of growing and maturing that he's doing and that he does in this book that is absolutely amazing. Something that I love about Lauren Asher is she always is putting in things, destigmatizing the embarrassment of therapy for men and them going and getting help. Like, he gets help for some of his certain addictions that he has in this book, and he grows so much as a person. Also, this is literally basically childhood friends to lovers, second chance romance, and you know that has my name written all over it, and I just loved this book. Also, she announced her new series that she's starting, and I feel like you got a glimpse of one of the characters, and I say that because this guy was talked about in what I felt was like an unnecessary way. Like, he was just kind of dwelled upon and talked about, and the new series takes place where this book takes place. So like, there's a specific place in neighborhood that this book is a part of, and like, she's starting. I don't know if any of that makes sense. To explain The Final Offer to you guys who haven't read it yet, this is the third book in the Dreamland Billionaire series. I would 100% recommend you guys read Final Offer. Well, that is what this book is. The fine print and terms and conditions before you read The Final Offer, because I feel like you can read it as a standalone because they don't dwell upon like what happens in the other books, but I just feel like you should read the other books to, you know, get this book. The Dreamland Billionaire series follows 3 brothers, so every brother gets their own book, and this is Cal's book. So the first book is Rowan's book, then it's Declan's book, and then it's Cal's book. And basically, they were already rich, but then their rich grandpa, who basically owned what is essentially Disneyland, dies, and in his will, there are contingencies for each and every one of them of things that they have to do to inherit the certain things that he has left them. And this one, I think it is that he has to sell this house. Oh no, he was asked to spend the summer at the family lake house before selling it, and then he runs into his childhood best friend, and they have not talked to each other in years. This or the fine print? But I think the fine print takes the cake for my favorite book in the series, but this is a super close second. Okay, the next book that I read was Playing Hard to Get by Monica Murphy. I really can't remember a lot about this book. I read this book for my Reading for 24 Hours Straight video, and I think I ended up giving this a 2 stars because it wasn't extremely memorable. Now, I loved A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime. That is one of my favorite books. I absolutely love that one, and I do want to read into the Lancaster Prep series, and I'm very excited, but I think I just had this like on my Kindle Unlimited, and I went to read it, and it was a football romance. I'm pretty sure it's like she has to start tutoring him, and there's like a romance that ensues from there, and she's gotten out of a recent relationship. And I just remembered, like, none of the characters or anything were really like hitting for me, and it was just kind of like a read. I just read the book. Next, in that same video, I finally read 7 Days in June. This was one of the books that I feel like has been on my TBR for the absolute longest, but I'm so happy that I read it. This book gets a high 3 stars for me. You can either get a low 3 or a high 3, and this one sits at a high 3. I loved this book. It has a then and now perspective. It is about 2 authors, and they basically shared 7 days in the past together. That's why it's called 7 Days in June. Don't ask me why I did not get that until literally way over halfway through the book and didn't realize that they had basically essentially spent 7 days together in their life. That was lost on me, and it's literally the title of the book, and that somehow was lost on me. It is a very good book. I was enjoying my time. I will say that it wasn't absolutely show-stopping and absolutely like changed my life like a lot of people say, and I feel like it's because this book gets a lot of hype. There were some beautiful moments. My favorite part, of course, is the, I feel like, most infamous part where it's like, stop writing about me, and he's like, you first. No, because why is that so cute? Why is that so cute? But this book is so much more than a romance, and I feel like that's what we should be marketing this book as, is there are so many different commentaries on so many different subjects that I feel like are so important in this book, that tackles a lot of things within this book, and it was just such a great read for me. And then I made it my life's mission to read the only other Abby Jimenez books that I haven't read yet. So we picked up The Friend Zone, and I read this month. Funny enough, I know everyone was stressed out because I figured this out after the fact, but in my 24-hour readathon blog, I was like, should I read this or the Happy Ever After playlist? And I wanted to read this one first, but then I ended up reading this one, and I didn't know that you actually should read this before you read this. Like, I didn't know that. But we did read this one first, and I did give this a 3 stars. I will say that this is my least favorite Abby Jimenez book. It just fell kind of flat for me. I don't like the trope that authors do sometimes when they write in a person having a significant other just for the sake of like a conflict to be had and like a reason that the couple can't be together. It's just one of my biggest pet peeves when authors do that, because I feel like it's just, you know, especially when the character isn't really doing anything wrong. Like, there's nothing relatively wrong with the boyfriend. It's just that the writer is wanting to make you root for the couple instead of the person that they are already with. I don't like when authors do that, but that's what happened with this book, so I feel like that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It still had the rom-com-y Abby Jimenez humor and Abby Jimenez writing that I absolutely love, so I still really enjoyed it. But then there's a storyline that very greatly impacts the other book that I'm going to be talking about by her that I read this month, that I feel like it would have made more sense for that to be dwelled upon in the other book than in this one, and it is entirely dwelled upon through very many chapters, and I feel like it didn't belong in this book. It belonged in the other book, but then that didn't happen in that book and it happened in this book, if that makes any sense. If you have read those 2 books, I feel like you would understand what I'm saying. Honestly, I will give it to myself. I feel like this month was the month that I read a few books that I feel like have been sitting on my physical TBR for a while, because then I read The Chase, and I gave this a 2 stars. I really didn't enjoy this book. I read this book, and this is basically the spin-off series to the Off-Campus series. This is Briar U. It takes place at the same exact college. You get glimpses of the off-campus characters in this book, especially in this book, because this book follows Summer, and she is one of the guys from the Off-Campus books, little sister. So this book, I just absolutely could not understand why anyone would root for this couple, because there are a few instances. In one instance, he literally calls her the B word. Literally calls her the B word. Also, there's like a scene where he's literally talking crap about her, and it's not just like a, you know, the brooding guy that's like, oh, I don't want to admit that I have feelings. No, he's literally talking crap about her. He's literally like, she's spoiled, she likes shopping, she likes this, like this and this, about things that he genuinely does not enjoy about her. And obviously she gets her feelings hurt over this, and just like, they're always arguing. I swear there's rarely a point in this book where the 2 of them are just like getting along, and I gave it a 2 stars. But honestly, you are hearing it from me first. I'm putting this down to a 1, because I really can't think. I feel like I try to be positive, but it's just, it is what it is. This was a 1 star. This book just was not good, but a lot of you told me to please continue on with the series, and since I do basically have every single book, I am going to, but this book was just not it. And then I read The Predator, which I actually have that book. The Predator, I read this. This is a dark romance book. This is a mafia book. It's actually part of the Darkverse series. This is the first book in that series, and I will say that this one got a 2 on my dark romance scale. And honestly, when I think back on it, I cannot remember a whole lot, except that this book didn't have a lot of romance in it, and I know that this ended on a cliffhanger. And listen, when I read mafia romances, I personally like the ones where it's like, it's a slow burn, like they're not automatically into each other, there's a lot of groveling, but he like lives, breathes, and dies for her. You know, like how in mafia romances, that's usually how the guy is. It's extremely toxic. It just wasn't there for me. Like the couple just didn't really seem that into each other. Next up, I read The Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. This is the last book that I read by her, and now I'm waiting until April to read Yours Truly by her, and I'm so excited. I think it's in the same universe as Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. It's in the same universe as that. Wow, I read this book. This was a 4 stars. I really liked it. I read this flying to Miami, in Miami, and flying home from Miami, and I just really loved this book. It was such a good book to read while I was there. This is also a One of Us is Famous trope, which I feel like I don't read enough of, and I really like that when I do read it. And I just love, again, Abby Jimenez, I love her writing. Her writing is just so fresh to me. It's like a breath of fresh air. I just literally love it so much. I love the characters. The guy in this book was amazing. Also, there was like some miscommunication in this book, but it wasn't enough where I like wanted to pull my hair out. I feel like they were very good at communicating, except for like there was so many different plot twists of storylines in this book that I was just like, wow. But it was weird because I was like, usually this would make me really mad and really annoyed, but I'm really enjoying myself. Next, I read one of my more anticipated books of 2023 for new releases and just for me to read in 2023, and that is The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. I read this for my like reading romance books for Valentine's Day reading vlog, and this got 3 stars from me, and I find it unfair because I just really enjoy Lynn Painter's writing. Like I said, I feel like her writing is like a teenage rom-com for me, and I love that writing. It's just so enjoyable. It's like when you go to sit down and watch To All the Boys I've Loved Before, or The Duff, or like any type of kind of like more teenagey rom-com. I love it. That's like how her writing is with her YA books. I've yet to read one of her more like adult romances, and so I always enjoy her writing. I just think with this storyline, I thought it was going to be cute, and it was like the Groundhog Day type of thing, but make it Valentine's Day. And while it was cute, I just never can rate a storyline like that very high because it gets very extremely repetitive, and I can never get over the fact that like you remember everything that's going on and you feel like the relationship is progressing because like you remember all the stuff but they don't remember. So it's basically like you're falling in love with them but they are forgetting you every single day. I don't know. I still think it's such a cute book for you guys to just read. I feel like I just love Lynn Painter's writing. This book is about Emily, and she basically is reliving her terrible Valentine's Day over and over again. It is the plot of Groundhog's Day, but make it Valentine's Day. It's cute, and since it's Lynn Painter's writing, I really enjoyed the writing of it. Next up for that same video, I read Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert, which got a 3.5 stars for me because it was a very cute book. I really liked the writing of this. Again, I feel like Talia Hibbert did really good for her. I'm pretty sure this is her first go about for YA books. I really liked the 2 characters. I loved the guy in this book, and I liked the storyline, even though I thought it was going to take more, I thought it was going to take place more in like this campy setting, and it didn't. So basically this book is about Bradley and Celine, and they were best friends for years, grew up next to each other, they were best friends, and then they have a falling out and they haven't talked to each other in a few years, and then basically they're both going to this camp wilderness retreat thing, and they have to kind of, you know, be teammates with each other. And I loved Celine's character. I love Bradley's character. I will say that you could kind of say it's a double-edged sword because the reasoning for them not talking anymore, I felt like was extremely realistic and so high school. Like, if you guys have read this book, it was just like, yeah, I can see where that happens. Okay, then I read the Influencer series by Amy Lee, the 2 books that she has out right now, which was Set on You and X's and O's. Surprisingly, I thought I was going to enjoy both of these books, which I did, but I thought I was going to enjoy X's and O's more than Set on You because this is about a bookstagrammer. She is a book influencer. This one is obviously about a fitness influencer. And first of all, I read Set on You, which I rated a 4 stars. I actually really liked this book. I really liked the writing, and I really liked the storyline of this book, and I loved the couple in this book. It was just really cute and sweet. It is basically about Crystal, and she is a fitness influencer at the gym. She kind of gets into a little bit of a non-verbal, non-physical arguments. Like, they just kind of do things to annoy each other at the gym, and then they find out that they have this like mutual connection, and then the story goes on from there. I will say that Amy Lee did this where I feel like whenever authors write influencers, I usually don't like it if the main character is an influencer, because I feel like authors just don't get it. Like, I feel like it's just not very realistic a lot of the times, and I will say that Amy Lee did it in a way that was not cringy, that I didn't feel was too out of the box, and I really liked it. And then I read X's and O's, which is about her sister Tara, and she is a bookstagrammer, and she moves into this apartment with this firefighter, and then she decides that she's going to contact all of her exes to see if she can get her second chance romance trope to have the date to this gala, right? I thought that I was going to absolutely love this book way more than Set on You, because duh, it's a bookstagrammer, book influencer, and hello, here I am. I will say though, I think I rated this book a 3.5 stars. I still enjoyed it a lot. I think what didn't do it for me was that I didn't really feel the chemistry between the two characters, because the guy does some stuff where I was like, okay, like you're making me feel a little weird. Like, this isn't making me feel very like rooting for you. And she also kind of, it was annoying to a point where she just kind of kept on relating everything back to book tropes. Like, they would get into an argument and she'd be like, this isn't the bad boy trope, like blah blah blah, or was just like relating every single book trope to her life, and like just something about that was really cringing me out. Okay, and then one of my more anticipated reads of this month, because this released, I think it released in February, and that was Saving Six by Chloe Walsh. This is the 3rd book in the Boys of Tommen series, a thick brick of a book just like the rest of them, and I was so excited because this is Joey's book. And we love Joey. So Joey is the main character's brother from Binding and Keeping 13. This is about him. You're following him and his love interest. And this is kind of more of a prequel. Like, most of this book takes place before Binding 13, or like towards the beginning of Binding 13. So I'm very interested to see the pacing in which Redeeming 6 comes out, because that's coming out this month. I'm pretty sure that Chloe Walsh is releasing that book this month, which I'm so excited for. I'm so excited to read this book because of how this book ends off, but also because of how Keeping 13 ends off. I don't know. Also, Chloe Walsh did post a sneak peek of like Lizzie's book, I think is what she was writing, or I don't think it's from 7, the little novella that she did. But why is the love interest different? When did that happen is all I have to say. And I can't wait for Claire and Gibsie's book. I need Claire and Gibsie's book more than I probably need to breathe. Of course I loved this book. Are you joking? I loved it. This book got a 4.5 stars for me. It didn't hit as absolutely hard as like Binding and Keeping 13 did, but I still absolutely loved this book. Oh, I love these characters so much. Genuinely, this is like when I read the Addicted Calloway Sister series last year. Like, just these characters, I think about them all the time. They're in my brain literally 24/7. I love them so much, and this is just kind of like a character study. These books are thick, the font is small, and I have an amazing time. I read this front to back in one night. I just sat here and read it from front to back within a few hours. I love Joey the Hurler. Okay, and then I reread Daisy Jones and the Six for you guys. So the show, it's out the day that you're watching this. The show is out. So happy watch day to everybody. I have a full spoilers Daisy Jones and the Six reading vlog that I made this month, and so I reread it to annotate and tab it. And of course this was still 5 stars. This is still one of my favorite books ever, and it just solidified my love for it so much. It broke my heart, put it back together again, then smashed it. Then I eventually healed to be able to talk to you guys about it. It is so good. One of my favorite books ever. Like, I don't feel like that's ever changing. I am so excited to see how it plays out on screen. You will not escape the first woman who loves you. And then I did a video where I reread some of my old 5-star reads books, which was kind of controversial. This was one of my OG book talk books, OG loves, that got me back into the romance genre, and it's a 3 stars. Okay, it is a 3. you know, I can remember why I loved this book, and I can hold an appreciation because of it being the book that got me back into romance and everything. But other than that, Smurfs, how tiny she is, just I feel like I've talked so much because I've done all of these videos. But then I read The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. 2 stars. 2 stars. Wow. I don't know how I ever rated this book a 5 stars because this was almost unbearable. I literally don't know how I ever liked Ethan. Like, he just was not a very good character. He was so bland. Literally like watching paint dry. There was no chemistry at all. And then, of course, we have Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, which I annotated for a subscriber. So, if you're that subscriber that I contacted about this for my 100K giveaway, just know it will be coming soon because I have annotated this for you. But I annotated this and reread it. 5 stars. Will be one of my favorite books, literally for eternity. I absolutely love Elliot and Macy, and it's the same thing for Beach Read, which I also read for that video, and it's still a 5 stars as well. Love these books until the day that I die. Okay, and then I read Binding 13 because this was also a book that somebody wanted annotated for them. So again, if you're that person, here it is. 5 stars. Still a 5 stars because I absolutely, like I already said with Saving 6, I loved this book, and just upon the reread, it was like I was alive again. It's like it like brought me back to life. Like, I really needed this book, and it pulled through, and I needed to. Johnny and Shannon are just unmatched. Claire and Gibsie come into a very insanely close second. Love them. I love them so much. I love all of these characters incredibly so much. This book is basically the start of the Boys of Tommen series. It is about Johnny and Shannon. Basically, one day Shannon has to go to a new school, and on her first day there, she's walking across the, what do they play? Rugby? Yeah, rugby pitch. And she gets boinked in the head with the ball, right? She gets just smacked with it. And who kicked that ball that injured Shannon? None other than Johnny Kavanaugh himself. But don't worry, he is an absolute amazing man, and you will fall in love with him if you read this, which I think that you should. And then I didn't need to, but of course I then picked up Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh and reread that because, hello, like, I could not. I was like, okay, I need to reread it, which this also got a 5 stars for me. Again, one of my 5-star series. This just follows the Binding 13. Binding 13 ends on a cliffhanger. You go into this book. This book, I was going to say, is a lot happier, but then again, no, it's not. Look up trigger warnings for the series, 100%, but I just love this series so much, and I cannot wait to read as many books as Chloe Walsh wants to give us. Okay, and then I picked back up the Throne of Glass series because I read Throne of Glass, which, yes, I got the new covers. Yes, I did. I got the new covers because I could not help myself. I started Throne of Glass in December. I read this book, and so we're not talking about it in this video, but I did rate that book a 4.5. I read that book a 4.5. So then I picked back up the next 2 books. So I read Crown of Midnight, and I gave this a 3 stars because this was like a steady decline for me. I was like reading it, and I was like, okay, like, this is the series I'm supposed to fall in love with. Like, I feel like the first book was such a good start. Like, I was really loving all of the characters. And then I was like, okay, like, how, like, I don't see, like, how this is. It was entertaining. Of course, I liked it and enjoyed it. If you guys don't know, Throne of Glass is basically another one of Sarah J. Maas's series. And it's basically you're following Selena. And she is a famous assassin, and she basically, when you find her in this book, this is how I read it. When you find her in this book, she is basically not taken by the king, but the king has her compete in basically what is essentially the Hunger Games of assassins to see who will be his private assassin. And then you go into this book, and I was just like, nothing happens in this book. Rarely anything happens in this book. This book, 100%, as I've kept on reading the series, is 100% a filler book. That is what I would categorize this at, especially within fantasy books. Sometimes when they are like bigger series, I feel like sometimes you just do have a filler book that's like, you gotta just kind of like cram some information in there for the rest of the books. And I definitely feel like that's what this book is, to introduce some characters, to introduce some plot lines. Not much happened in this. So that was the 3 stars. And then I went to the Assassin's Blade after this because that's how the reading order that I saw majority. If I were to go back, I think that I would read this first though. I feel like I would read it first because it is a prequel. All of it is like before you even see her in Throne of Glass. And I just feel like it's way more impactful because there is something big that's spoiled for you in Throne of Glass from when you read this. And I feel like if you would have read this first before Throne of Glass, then it would have been an impactful more. The reason that I didn't read it that way is because, you know, people on TikTok don't put spoiler warnings. And so I knew what the big thing was anyway. So this book didn't make me cry either because I also knew that big spoiler thing. But this got a 3-star for me too. Again, a bunch of very, very useful information. However, I do think that this book did just introduce a lot of characters that are probably going to have to be prevalent throughout the rest of the series. But you did get a lot of insight on Selena, so. And then, of course, I read Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. This was a really good 4-star book for me. I love the Knock 'Em Out series. And hello, Lucian's book is coming out. Lucian's book's coming out this year. We're gonna get to read him. However, nothing, I don't know if anything can ever top Things We Never Got Over. I just love that book. It's a 4.5 star for me. No, 4.75 stars. I love Things We Never Got Over. I loved this book too. However, I felt like there was like a lot of, oh, we don't like each other, and like a lot of miscommunication, a lot of not getting along, a lot of fighting. And then all of a sudden for me, like when the relationship hit, it was like, is all I'm going to say because I don't really want to spoil anything. This is basically about Nash, and you're following Nash after the events of Things We Never Got Over. You're following him after those events, and then you're also following Lena, who you got introduced to previously in those books. It is such a good book. If you like small town romances, please, please, please read Things We Never Got Over and then read Things We Never Got Things We Hide from the Light. This book though was so good. Really liked it a lot more. Actually, you know, at first I was trying to read this book and I just couldn't read it. But I think it was because I wasn't in the mood to read it. I think I was genuinely in like a fantasy mood. And then whenever I got kind of disappointed by the 2 Throne of Glass books, I was like, you know what? No, we're going to pick up Things We Hide from the Light because I need something to be good for me. And it was. I really liked it. I literally sat down and just read the book. Like, I just loved it so much I didn't want to stop reading it. I want to talk about, those are like all the books that I completed. Like, I completed those books this month. I do want to talk about quickly 2 books that I did not finish this month. So, DNF, actually like DNF, is I DNF'd Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey. This was a new release this month. It didn't hit. Did not hit. I don't know what it was about this book. The writing and the characters, I was just reading it. I picked it up and then stopped like a little bit over 100 pages in, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this. And then I picked it back up earlier this week, and I was like, yeah, I still can't do it. And then also we have In a Jam, and this isn't a book that I'm DNFing. I did put it down like and stopped reading it because I wanted to continue reading the Throne of Glass series, so I do want to like continue reading this in March, but I just wanted to let you guys know that I did read a little. I literally read almost 300 pages of this book, so I almost finished it, but I did not. So let's count them. So we had 1 book on my Kindle, 22 books this month, I think. I'm not good at math, so that may be wrong, but we're at 22 books this month, and I feel like it was a pretty good reading month. Like overall, I feel like I rated books pretty high up. I feel like I was really enjoying most of the books that I was reading. I feel like it was a good reading month, and I'm very happy for it. And I'm hoping that March is the same. Don't worry, guys. I'm going to be having my March TBR up here in a day or 2, so please just stick with me. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you guys did, you guys know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff that you guys know how to do. I don't need to tell you guys how to do it. You guys know how to do it. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and hit that sub button. Go ahead and sub. I'll give you a sec. Go ahead and sub. Okay, you subbed? Good. That was so cringy of me. That was cringy of me. Let's just act like I never did it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys so much. I will see you guys when I see ya. Have some exciting things planned. So get ready. Get ready. Okay, love you guys. I'll see you guys when I see ya. Peace.